It's lovely to connect with you. I'm really going to make this hopefully as relevant for you as possible. So please stay with me. The idea is I'm going to try and do this in, let's say, 30 minutes or less, but it depends on where we digress off to. I've created this presentation specifically with you guys in mind, and I welcome you to ask any questions that you wish along the way. So let me switch screens over. I'll get the presentation up and we'll kick off. So I've coined it Supercharge Your Life for a reason, guys. I think there are so many things that we can all do to improve our quality of life and the discomfort that we feel, whether it's suppressed thyroid, low morning energy, lower back pain, poor sleep, whatever it may be that we struggle with. My message really is to move fitness more towards health and holistics. So the agenda, if you will, is I want to discuss this phenomenon of why body fat distributes itself around your body in certain areas. You probably think it might be genetic or just hereditary or just potluck, but there's actually a bit of a story to it. We'll have a quick look at gut health. Gut health is huge right now, guys. You know what? I'm going to just put you back on again because I was enjoying looking at you all there, so I'm going to put you back up. I'm going to touch on women's health as well. There's a few points about women's health that I think might be useful. Anyone suffering with any lower back issues at the moment, I'm going to talk through what I use with myself. As an ex-Marine, I battered my body into the ground and I sometimes get a protruding disc if I do too much in the gym. So I'm going to talk you through how I would combat that without medication, and then a very quick touch on improving sleep. So as Sean said, very briefly, I'm a clinical nutritionist. I also work in the field of functional diagnostic nutrition, and I specialize, one of my kind of key areas of interest is posture and movement specialisms. So I do consider myself to be a personal trainer, but I am ultimately the heading up this gym, GSquared clubs in St Anne's Square. It's due to open 31st of May, so literally 3 weeks away. It's a high-end facility where we bring in really a very, very advanced set of facilities to what I believe to be quite a stunning interior. The designers have done an absolutely incredible job on making it a space that's very, very aspirational. We've got all the usual kit. So yes, it's a holistic studio, but we've still made time for things like aquariums and waterfall features and infrared saunas as opposed to normal saunas. Guys, I'm not sure if any of you have used an infrared sauna. It's very useful for rheumatoid arthritis. It's very helpful for drawing toxins, particularly plastics from the body. We know that plastics are carcinogenic. And it's also great to put you in what's called a parasympathetic state. Can I just ask you all maybe to make notes as I talk through? And guys, if I am talking too quick or I skim over something that seems complicated but relevant to yourself, please stop me, go into the chat or the Q&A. It's so important that you walk away having felt that the last 30 minutes was a good use of your time. It's very important to me. First thing I want to say anyway, getting back to this, is that every form of ill health, guys, plays itself out physically in some way. So if you were to have a look at your fingernails right now, if you've got ridges, vertical ridges on your fingernails, that is an indication that you might have a zinc deficiency, or you might have an issue with your body actually absorbing zinc. If you have, I'm not sure if you've ever come across people with very kind of bulbous fingernails, that's an indication of either a lung dysfunction or an issue with oxygen in the blood. So you tend to get, I know my granddad had it, very, very bulbous, round, clubbed fingernails. That's, again, not just genetic, that's actually a sign that there's something wrong with the body. Black rings under your eyes can often indicate a poor night of sleep, but more interestingly, it can indicate liver issues, or it can indicate an adrenal dysfunction. So if someone's very pale, they are obviously suffering from shock. The list goes on. Your knuckles, so this part of your knuckle here, if they're quite dark shaded, that is an indication of a B12 deficiency. And the list goes on and on and on and on. There is so many physical cues that the body gives us to indicate that something is not right. And the first thing I want to touch on is this idea of body fat distribution. So here we have an obese individual, but what I want to make reference to, this is actually a 13-year-old boy. Obviously, I've cut the face out for obvious reasons, and you can see there is a fat buildup around the pec area. And this area is the site receptor for testosterone development. Now, I won't get too political or too contentious, but we seem to have entered a time and space whereby this physique is almost normalized. You know, we might see young boys and young girls on adverts on TV, and we might have just become kind of used to it. I would suggest that this boy, if something's not rectified, that's going to disrupt what's called his endocrine blueprint for the rest of his life. So he is going to have a suppressed testosterone as he enters his teens, and that's not something you'll be able to address or fix. It'll be something he lives with. So what we're saying here, guys, is that you can actually look at someone, look at where their body fat builds up. Predominantly, it's the predominant that's the key word, and you can actually extrapolate or make a deduction on what their endocrine hormonal blueprint looks like. So these have actually gone back to front. I'm sorry about that, guys. That's completely wrong. This is not gut inflammation at all. This is low testosterone. And this one here, these love handles, we call them, or muffin tops, is actually gut inflammation. I do apologize. So if you see someone with a predominant buildup of fat around here, this is gut inflammation. And it comes from two things, guys. One, it can come from what's called dysbiosis. D-Y-S-B-I-O-S-I-S, dysbiosis. It's a posh word, a medical word for an imbalance of bacteria in your gut. So you're all aware we've got good and bad bacteria. The inflammation in the gut is causing the body to play out physically because there is an imbalance of bad bacteria, normally due to excessive refined sugars. We know that refined sugar, which the RDA is 30 grams a day, we are way above that, by the way, guys. So the RDA is like 210 grams a week. The UK consumes something like 700 to 800 grams a week. So the refined sugar does two things for us. One, it will suppress testosterone, but it will also feed bad bacteria, and it will also ramp down white blood cell activity. Now, guys, I'm too long in the tooth to rant about the state of the UK or what people do wrong. All I'm here to do is to give you the information. That's all I'm here to do, and you can make your own mind up. And we've just gone through COVID. We've had 127,000 deaths. We've had over 4 million cases in the UK. Per capita, sadly, we've had the most deaths in the world per capita. So with 69 million people, 127,000 deaths, pound for pound, we've had more deaths than any other country. And that's been a real kind of light shone on the level of health of the UK. I don't blame the public, actually, and I'm going to digress now, so I'm going to stop. I don't blame the public. I blame availability of food. And we also talk about a lack of education, don't we? Oh, it's a lack of education. No, it's not lack of education, because in 1993, we were 15% obesity. 2019, we hit 26% obesity. So something went very, very wrong in the last 2 decades. So you can't argue that we knew about nutrition 20 years ago. We really didn't. I couldn't use the word carb 20 years ago. You wouldn't know what I was talking about, because we didn't have that level of information. We didn't know what the paleo diet was. And, you know, vegetarians were probably in the handles, whereas now, you know, every third person's a vegetarian. So if anything, we've become more informed about nutrition, but the stats are going the wrong direction. This middle one's interesting. This middle one is what's called stress fat. This is where this whole idea came from. So if you have a predominant buildup of fat around your stomach, all the sit-ups in the world are not really going to do a great deal of difference. It's about bringing down or about controlling your adrenal function. This was coined by 2 doctors, Dr. Sean Talbot from America, his book, The Cortisol Connection, and then Dr. Marilyn Glenville right here in the UK. Her book's very interesting, Fat Around the Middle. 2 incredible books that really kind of led the way in understanding that actually fat is site receptor mediated. And what happened is they said, well, if the stomach has a link to a hormone, so fat around the stomach has a link to a hormone, there may be other parts of the body do as well, because know that women often complain about fat buildup around their legs. And if we get into that for a second, guys, fat buildup around the thigh. So if you're lean everywhere, but you have a buildup of fat around your thigh, it would suggest that your natural estrogens are not either excreting or detoxifying correctly, or you might have an imbalance of those estrogens. So you're aware you've got different estrogens: estradiol, estriol, estrione. And I think it's the estrione that's the weakest and the least desirable, which you can often find in plastics and things that mimic estrogen in the body. Hamstring reading, where you get the cellulite in the back of the legs, all that really is a toxicity. And there's a website, I'm going to steal my thunder, there's a website called ewg.org. Check it out. ewg.org is a website that you can go onto and you can punch all your toiletries and cosmetics into it to check the toxicity of those products, because the skin is a very absorbent cell. So we know that more women than men are putting lotions and creams on their body, and then we're drawing toxins in. We consume about 30 micrograms of plastic a day, about 30 micrograms. So we live in a very, very toxic society, and that's where this hamstring reading is representative of. It's what we call the Zen estrogens. So phthalates, bisphenol A, plastics from hot containers. You put a microwave meal in the microwave, the plastic is leaching into the food. I know it sounds disappointing, but that's just how it is. Or if you're drinking a hot cup of tea from a foam cup, polystyrene cup, or if you've left your water bottle in the sun, the plastic is leaching into the water. I won't go into all of these because there's a lot to it, but I'll just cover some of the key ones. If I look at your calf reading, so if I take a skin fold of your calf at the widest point, that is your insulin growth factor 1, otherwise known as sleep. So I can actually make an extrapolation on someone's sleep patterns just by reading their skin fold, their calf site. Upper back is relative to insulin management, so how well your body manages sugars. Iliac crest, which is this point here, the hip bone, is how many sugars you actually have in your body. I call it the truth site. So I tell someone to reduce down the sugars. I use this site to ascertain whether they're following that. And the tricep is linked to androgens. So when women and guys, actually, a lot of guys have complained about fat buildup on their tricep. That is just basically their sex hormones lowering. And your sex hormones, your androgens will lower because something is normally suppressing them. People think it's just age. Normally it's not age. Normally there's something in your diet that's actually lowering luteinizing hormone production and SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin. Top tip, guys and girls, you're probably zinc deficient. Zinc is absolutely implicated in all cases with testosterone production. Now, to create testosterone, you need luteinizing hormone. So in women, zinc supplementation serves to help to detoxify and excrete excess estrogen. And in men, it helps to boost testosterone. And we know that magnesium and zinc are deficient in the UK, along with vitamin D. The only one the media wheels out is vitamin D. You hear it, right? Every year you hear the media wheel out the fact that the UK is vitamin D deficient. It's not the only one we're deficient in. We're deficient in fish oil, or omega-3. Sorry, I misspoke, omega-3. We have a ratio of something like 15:1 when it should be 1:2. But again, I should be overviewing, not go into massive detail, so I'll proceed. I won't spend too much time on this slide. This is just a very quick one to show you where we're at in the world. This was a prediction taken, and here we are at 2020. It was predicted that we'd be at 30%. Gladly, we're not quite there just yet. We're at 27%. Mexico is around about 34, 35, and the US is just running away with it. And you can probably see, right, that the US has had a very hard time in COVID. Obviously, the UK has as well. India has, but India's got its own challenges. 1.3 billion people, 60% of those earn less than $5 a day. A lot of poverty in India. Brazil also had a tough time of it. That's because the government refused to accept that COVID was a thing. But the United States, there's 75% of people in the United States who actually get by on medication, long-term medication. They take less holidays than the rest of the world. They're a very, very successful, industrious, productive nation. We all look to the US and think it's an incredible place to live and be and work. But the reality is that their health is deteriorating at a shocking rate, and it is kind of correlated with their rates of obesity. So the impact of being overweight, even a little bit, and again, I'm not, we all carry body fat at different times of the year, whether we're looking to store up during the winter, we were less active during COVID, or whatever's going on for us, that's just life happening. That's not an issue. I'm just here to let you know what's going on. But it will disrupt your endocrine system, as we spoke about with the young boy. There will be a fertility rate decline, both men and women. There's two hormones, guys, ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is your hunger hormone. So when you get hungry, that's this hormone called ghrelin releasing in your brain, in your pituitary. And then when you feel satiated, you get a release of leptin. Now, the problem with being overweight is that ghrelin is increased. So it becomes this vicious cycle that the heavier you become, the hungrier you are, because more ghrelin is being produced. And that's a very, very difficult cycle to break. I've been there myself when I've been eating and maybe my body fat's gone beyond where I want it to be. And I'm not feeling satiated because leptin is lowering and ghrelin is increasing. So that's a mindset thing that so many weight loss programs don't address. It's just a case of, oh, be more disciplined, just follow the diet. Yeah, but there's this kind of massive hormonal shift. And really, guys, that's all we are, just a kind of a bag of hormones, really, at the end of the day. These hormones aren't being legislated for. Some supplement companies are trying to manipulate them, but they're very difficult supplements. They're very difficult hormones to manipulate. We also know now, guys, that type 2 diabetes increased your risk of type 3 diabetes. Not sure if you've even heard of type 3. You've probably heard of type 1 and type 2. Type 3, its name that you will recognize is Alzheimer's. So in 40 to 50 years from now, we are going to have an Alzheimer's epidemic, because at the moment, diabetes, and the news just this morning showed us that another 10,000 cases from last year of diabetes type 2 has just come about from last year. So if we don't get a grip of diabetes type 2 right now, which is typically diet and self-induced, type 1 you tend to be, it's more genetic, type 2 is most of the time induced. If we don't get a grip of this soon, it's going to become a major problem. And we know who's going to suffer the most. It's going to be the NHS, because they're not going to be able to cope. I want to move into the cancer components very quickly. The rest of it, I'm sure you can read for yourself, and we've got this on record. But cancer was at one point 1 in 15, it drops to 1 in 7, then it drops to 1 in 4, 1 in 3. Now we're at 1 in 2. 1 in 2 was going to get cancer. And I certainly personally, this is my own take on things, guys. For me, cancer is like a barometer of whether society is going in the right or the wrong direction. And you've probably heard the adverts that, cancer won't win. We will win. We will beat cancer. I'm not so sure. You don't treat cancer directly. Cancer is a cause of a lifestyle 44 to 50% of the time. So the great news is that if you invest time in understanding holistic health and what are carcinogenic factors to us, you'll actually find, guys, that you can reduce your cancer by nearly half. That's a fact. And when you go on ewg.org, they're not backwards and coming forwards about what products are what they call immunotoxic or carcinogenic, or have reproductive disruptive properties. It's really scary when you think about it. And I won't mention names, it'd be unprofessional, but there are big companies out there that have been sued in court for billions of dollars. Go on the internet, you'll find them. And I would just say this though, guys, that the fastest rate of cancers at the moment are thyroid and liver cancers. They're both showing to have the fastest rate of growth in the last decade. So anything you can do to nourish the liver and support the thyroid gets suppressed, guys, by, again, this excessive intake of refined sugar. Do you know now that they actually use a glucose pill to flag a tumor on a scan? Because what's incredible is that the tumor glows when it receives the glucose. It actually glows on a scan. So tumors can actually be fed and can actually metastasize or grow through this enhanced refined sugar diet that people have. And what's also interesting is that the lecturers I work with at University of Aberdeen, where I do my clinical nutrition, have done a study whereby they've found that folates, which are essentially B vitamins, are showing to potentially the deficiency that we have with folates is actually causing 30 to 50% more cancers of colon cancer than actually should be the case. So again, that is another pointer that lifestyle is attributing at least, I mean, I've said 44%, I'd say probably even more than that. Guys, I'm going to move on. I could talk about any of these subjects all day long, but we've got a time limit and I want to keep you guys. I'm keeping the track of everyone staying and leaving on the call because it's always, I hate when people leave. You're going to miss out. Let's get into gut health. So there's four issues. Dysbiosis, we've spoken about that. Achlorhydria. This is a dysregulation of an enzyme called hydrochloric acid, or HCl. HCl is responsible for breaking down proteins in your body. If anyone's a big red meat eater, and I'm a big red meat eater, I can't do vegetarianism, I'm afraid. I wish I could, but I can't. I need that HCl. If I don't have HCl in my system, the meat will ferment in my small intestine and cause dysbiosis. Blunted brush border, a third issue. So you've got the epithelial lining of your gut, that's like the gut lining. Around the gut lining, guys, you have little hairs. They're called microvilli. And that's what helps you to kind of digest the food and kind of move the food around the intestines. When those little hairs become blunted, that's called blunted brush border. And it's been flagged in particularly a lot of girls that have got bulimia. So anything that puts a real stress on the GI tract, and obviously people with bulimic thrown up very aggressively multiple times a day will certainly put that stress on the GI, is actually causing that blunted brush border. And if you have anyone that has become lactose intolerant in their later years, it is actually correlated with blunted brush border. Now, I'm not sure what you can actually do about it other than just to support digestion. Fiber supplements are very, very helpful, good quality ones, but fiber supplements can be very helpful. Artichoke, fennel oil, and ginger. So if you get bloating, all that is methane being released in your stomach that's literally making your stomach bloat up because your food is not being digested quick enough. And when it sits there, it starts to ferment. So if you have that problem, guys, you've either got an intolerance to a certain type of food, or you've just got a slowed digestive rate, okay? So fiber can help that, or you can take a supplement that contains fennel, artichoke, and ginger. That combination has been shown to block the bacteria that causes the methane. I hope I'm not going too fast. I hope I'm not going too intense. Guys, one thing I implore you to understand about the gut is that it is 3/4 of your immunity. Another reason why the UK has suffered with COVID, because our first line of defense wasn't there. And the government walked us into this. If we'd have had some proper self-empowering information on how to actually bolster our immunity through gut health, and all the specialists are aware of this. This is what really bothers me. All the specialists understand. You can look at any research about the gut and understand that most of our immunity is actually from the gut. And our mental health. We talk about mental health a lot, but we don't realize that there's this link between the gut and the brain. 90% of your serotonin, that's your feel-good hormone, is made in the gut. Poor gut, poor mind. Healthy gut, healthy mind. It's not about antidepressants. It's not about medication. It's about addressing people with this baseline foundation. This stuff should be taught at schools. It shouldn't take me to come on here and wow you with this information. This should be known. This is basic stuff. And 66% of the rest of your neurotransmitters, GABA, acetylcholine, and dopamine, are also made in the gut. So if you can really look after your gut in the best possible way, I'm going to give you a few tips right now, you will actually get mental benefits. First things first, guys. God, it's such a massive field, and I'm trying to condense it right down to literally one slide. If there is a presence of Helicobacter pylori or H. pylori. You've all heard of that bacteria. It comes from poisoned food. You've got to deal with that first, right? If you are achlorhydric, so if you lack stomach enzymes, if you walk into Holland Barrett and you say, I'm looking for a digestive enzyme to improve digestion, the first question they should ask you is, have you been checked for H. pylori? Because if you take enzymes with H. pylori in your system, it will feed the bacteria. It will proliferate. You'll get really bad stomach pains to the point where you're doubled over. H. pylori is pretty easy to get rid of if you use the right medication or if you use what's called a paracleanse. And you can do blood tests in GSquared health clubs. We have lab testing. So we actually offer that to our members as a secondary service. And we're moving away from opinions. I'm sure you've all got personal trainers. I'm sure you've all got coaches and people you talk to. There's too much opinions in this industry. There's too much, oh, you've got that, you've got this, try that diet. Let's use facts and stats. As a clinical nutritionist, you've got to know where people are at, facts and stats. So if I want to measure your liver health, I'd want to know what your C-reactive protein levels are. And then I might give you something to help support your liver. I'm just going to read an article and go, oh, that looks pretty cool, try that. I want to know if it's relevant for you or not. And that's really what blood testing does for you guys. And we can do a bacteria blood test to see what bacteria you've actually got in your system. What's interesting though is you can actually reverse engineer it. You can actually see if you're that type of person that gets, when you run down and you get a urinary infection or your rheumatoid arthritis kicks in, let's say you've had a really bad week and you're feeling pretty run down. Well, if you're getting those symptoms, that could suggest you've got Citrobacter in your system, a bacteria. In the same way that if you've got any issues with your middle of your back, so T6, T7 is essentially a vertebrae in the middle of your spine. If you've got really bad breath and you get migraines, they are indicators. Again, remember, the body is playing out ill health. It can't talk, it's not got a voice, but it plays out ill health in its own weird and wonderful way. It's down for us to understand what those indicators are. It could indicate that H. pylori is present, although I'd probably suggest because you probably get pretty bad stomach pains from time to time. First thing I'd like you to do, guys, when it comes to gut health, tomorrow morning, grab yourself a glass of water before you drink or eat anything. Do this tomorrow morning, fill it up with tap water and spit into the glass. If after 2 minutes, any of these formations occur, it does mean that you've got a case of small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, otherwise known as SIBO. And it means it does need addressing. So if you are run down, you might get a flare-up of thrush, or you might get IBS issues flaring up. That's because the tight junctions separate in the gut. IBS is actually really quite easy to fix. If it takes about 5 minutes for these to form, you've got a mild case, but the body can kind of cope with it and control it. And if it takes like 10 to 15 minutes to form, you're in good condition. It's a very simple test without doing blood tests that tell you the state of your digestive health, because your tongue and your mouth is part of your digestive tract. So quick solutions then, guys. First things first, if a PT or a coach tells you that they want to do an insulin reset with you, don't even bother doing it until you've fixed your gut. Why? Because we know that the gut releases excess insulin if it's unhealthy. So if you're overweight or you've got a dysbiosis, your body is actually making more insulin. So you're kind of doing an insulin reset, which is how you kind of combat type 2 diabetes, or what we call insulin resistance. But you're putting the cart before the horse. It's just going to go back again because you've not addressed the gut issues. So fix the gut first. I personally use this botanical made up of wormwood, clove, and black walnut. They're not the best tasting, but you can get it in a small tincture format. I've done this with clients for, 15 years now. Normally 21 days, although I'm now seeing the research that in some cases you need to do it longer, and that will kill the bacteria in your GI tract. It's pretty powerful stuff. If you want to go one up, you can use oregano oil, but I don't touch oregano oil because it actually can burn. These for me work perfectly. Wormwood, clove, black walnut. Came from a doctor called Dr. Hulda Clark, Hulda, Hulda Clark. She was an absolute genius in her day. She's passed now, sadly. And she came up with the idea of liver cleanse or liver detox. You may have heard of it. It's where you basically release gallstones from the gallbladder. Very, very safe process, perfectly okay to do. And I learned this from her. After you've done a paracleanse, it's then good to do a fiber supplementation, because you're going to flush the dead parasites out of your body and you're going to feel pretty incredible. And then you would start to look at doing a prebiotic and a probiotic. Prebiotics you can get from food. So bananas, slightly unripe bananas contain butyrate. Butyrate is a prebiotic. It feeds your good bacteria. Good quality gluten-free oats will do the same. Cold white rice, cold white potatoes, sauerkraut if you're that way inclined, but I never recommend sauerkraut because no one likes it. But those 4 foods contain this thing called butyrate, and that will feed your good bacteria whilst also re-inoculating your gut with the probiotics as well. Okay, moving swiftly on. So just touching on women's health, I've kind of already stolen my thunder, but we've got this bad estrogen, if you will, for want of a better word, called estrone. And it's often found in plastics. It's found in some red meat. Why is it found in red meat? Because sadly, intensive farming practices mean that the cows get fed all sorts of antibiotics and steroids to make them bigger. I know in the US, a lot of the cattle are fed still besterone, I think it is, or still bosterone, which is like a steroid to basically bulk them up. And of course, that's going to sit in the cells, isn't it? That's where it's going to sit in the tissue, and then we ingest that in the same way that we're ingesting fish that's got all toxicity from the sea. So reason why GSquared Clubs is funding the World Wildlife Fund, guys, and other such charities that are pulling plastics from the sea, because we're all over this. You know, we feel very strongly that we want to support that kind of planetary process. It's shocking when you hear about it. And dairy milk is very estrogenic. If you've not already made the move, guys, you've got to move over to plant-based milks. You will thank me for it. Oat milk, cashew milk. If you're quite resistant to this, I was quite old school. I was like, oh, no one's taking my dairy milk. But when someone actually did a Pepsi challenge with me and put 2 cups of tea in front of me, one with cashew milk, one with dairy milk, I actually couldn't taste the difference. It was quite remarkable. I was like blown away. I thought someone was trying to mug me off or something. I was like, no, this is actually cashew milk. And at Remedy Kitchen in Manchester, they only use plant-based milks. It's awesome. Got a ton of questions coming. I hope you're all kind to me. When it comes to improving your estrogen balance, guys, so girls, if you do have fat buildup around your lower body that you're unhappy with, it might just be that your body's not detoxifying the estrogen quick enough. So if you ramp up on your zinc, so the current RDA of zinc is 15 milligrams a day for men, and I think 10 milligrams for women. But you know what? You can go a bit higher than that to replete your cells. Or you can do a green tea capsule. I don't like green tea, the liquid, so I just go for a capsule. I give that to cancer patients as well, because green tea also helps to reprogram the cancerous cells of the DNA. Green tea helps to reprogram the DNA. So if you have got a history of cancer in your family, guys, and you're worried about it, a good green tea supplement could be useful. Then you've got DIM, which is short for diindolylmethane, methane, probably the gold standard in estrogen detoxification. Just come and talk to me, guys. Please don't go into the high street shops and buy your products, your supplements. If you're going to do that, come and talk to me, and I'll point you in the right direction with the right brands. You've got to appreciate I've been taking supplements for 20, 25 years, and I've sampled all sorts. We've talked about UWG. That's all good. All right. I want to get into lower back pain just to finish off with, because I'm mindful of time. I want you guys to have a chance to talk to me. So if you have lower back pain, first things first, you don't need medication. You might not even need a physiotherapist. Just follow this process. This is how I made my money in the industry, by basically fixing people. People come to me with lower back pain and go, there's my credit card, just run a tab, just make the pain go away. I can't cope with the pain, because we know that static pain is just the most horrific of any pain to the body. So first thing you've got to do, guys, is strengthen your TVA, your transverse abdominals. You do that by a droning maneuver. Any core-based work is going to help you do that. Pilates, maybe even yoga to a degree, or specific core strengthening. You've got to ramp up vitamin D3. Why? Because your site receptors for D3 are in your spine, believe it or not. So any D3 supplementation is going to nourish the spinal fluid. To release that sciatica, you need to get your knuckle into the piriformis and press down hard. Either get your partner or someone in the house to do it for you. You basically locate it by triangulating it in your glute, and then you press down. Try and press with a blunt instrument. Don't start doing sharp stuff, otherwise if you don't hit the spot, it'll hurt. And you just press in. I think a knee or an elbow is probably the best. And that, by pressing down for 2 seconds and then coming off and pressing down, coming off, and just kind of almost like pulpating the area, can actually help to reduce down that gnawing sciatic pain that runs down your leg. When you go to bed at night time, put a cushion between your knees to align your spine. That's very important. Omega-3 is very powerful anti-inflammatory to the body. And of course, that's all that protrusions are. Protrusion or lower body fat is just an inflammatory condition. So omega-3, quality omega-3 supplement, either from algae or fish oil, is going to bring down inflammation. Magnesium cream, you can actually buy magnesium and rub it onto the site. I also use a geranium oil, and I'll tell you which one I use. I use Espar. Espar Fitness Oil has a geranium base in it. And whenever I get my protrusion once or twice a year, I should know better by now, the geranium oil from Espar works a treat. And then also, longer term, you need to start strengthening the lower back muscles. The inner unit is called the multifidus, that's deep inside. And then the outer unit, the muscles you can see, is actually the erector spinae. But you would do that later. You wouldn't want to start extending when you've got really bad lower back pains. And then last thing to cover, guys, one thing, if there's one thing, only one thing you could do for sleep, it would be magnesium. Not sleeping pills. Sleep disruption is not a deficiency in sleeping pills. All sleeping pills do is put you into a sedated state. You don't get your what's called non-REM sleep with sleeping pills. So you actually wake up in the morning. I'm not sure if anyone's done sleeping pills. I have. And I wake up in the morning feeling knackered, really groggy, really like sluggish. And then the coffee has to be, you know, induced, and the caffeine fixes. And it takes you like half a day to recover from it because it's not giving you the proper sleep, the REM and non-REM sleep. Magnesium is the first stop for you, okay? And again, doctors should be prescribing this first. And if you still can't sleep after magnesium and magnesium salt bath and lavender and all the botanicals, all right, then I'll try you with some sleeping pills. But really, I say to clients all the time, there's no point in us really starting any fitness regime or road back to health until we sort your sleeping issues out. And people come to me with issues of either not being able to get to sleep, waking during the night, or waking up feeling tired. They're the three main things that people fall into. And magnesium can actually address all three factors, along with gut health as well. Because remember what I said, serotonin is made in your gut. Well, actually, serotonin makes melatonin. So if you have low serotonin, guess what? You're going to have low melatonin. So for me, any heavy carb-based foods induce serotonin. I'm sure you've had the same effect. You have a big carb meal Sunday afternoon and everyone's asleep after it because the carbs are inducing serotonin. And then the serotonin's inducing melatonin. So back in the 90s, we used to say, oh God, I apologize on behalf of the fitness industry, guys. I apologize for all the shit we've ever come out with to you. But we used to say carbs late, add weight. Not true, not true, not true. Carbs late actually might help you sleep because they induce serotonin. They put you into a relaxed state. Then you have a magnesium bath. So you actually can go to Holland & Barrett for this one. They're in Holland & Barrett, £10 a bag. Be liberal, pour it into your bath at night time. Not too hot, otherwise you'll denature the magnesium. and you have about 30 minutes of extreme sleepiness with those things. So if you've got a lot of stress on at work and you need a good night's sleep, magnesium flakes are great, and combination of magnesium capsules and flakes even better. Word of warning, don't do what my mum did and be magnesium deficient for about 30 years of her life until I come along and go, take that. And the body got excited. So when you give the body something that's deficient in, it gets supercharged, right? It gets like, this is great, you're giving me what I need. And she said, oh, Andy, I'm not taking that again, because I was up all night with it. I was like, yeah, well, no wonder you're up all night with it, because the first time we've taken it, your body's got super excited. You should have took it during the daytime. My fault, I didn't tell her. Anyway, she carried on with it, and now she uses magnesium to control her blood pressure, which is pretty cool. It also improves what's called metabolic syndrome. Not one for now, but it also helps to bring you into a calming state. It's called a parasympathetic state. So that's my one tip there, guys, either capsules or flakes for helping you to sleep at night time. These are all based, what I've gone through here, guys, I've come up with this acronym called MINIMUS, Mindset, Insulin, Nutrition. You can read it, let's read it out. And it's really how we launch GSquared Health Clubs. That's what we stand for. That's what we do. You don't come here to get, ripped abs and big guns. You come here to improve your health, to improve your holistic health. If you want a strength conditioning workout, we can give you that all day long. But we're trying to create like these other three forms. Like we come in four forms, guys. We come in the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And for too long, gyms have just focused on the physical. And during COVID, they were jumping the bandwagon going, oh yeah, training is good for mental health. Like you don't even understand how training is good for mental health beyond understanding endorphin release. We're talking about hormones that are made in the gut called neurotransmitters that feed the brain. But, people jump on things, don't they? So we're trying to give you this really deep level of health. So you might come to the gym, guys, and I might say to you, you know what, don't work out, work in. Working in is actually building yin, building energy. How about that for an idea? So here's this gym that you don't go to work out and get hot and sweaty and get all stiff after the day after. You come here to perform better. And you perform better by us understanding what you need to do to get better. And I might say to you, you know what, today, it's not a workout. I want you to go into the rest pod and have a sleep for 30 minutes. Or, you know what, just do a little go on the assault course, gentle, do a yoga class, and then go into the infrared sauna for 30 minutes. Because that's today what you need today. And I know I'm up against it because we've got this mindset that gyms are these places where you train hard and you get sweaty, but honestly, guys, that's not GSquared. We've got an online program, everything I've gone through, we've put into a really lovely online program called the GSquared Experience. Just go onto our website, follow the links, and you can actually buy that, download it. I've given you 6 programs. And then every week I go through a piece of information. I send you a seminar like this on specific key areas. We're going in much more detail. We've got the shop. When you go into the website, you can see some of the supplements that we offer. I would strongly urge you speak to me first though before buying anything. Don't waste your money on stuff that you don't need. It needs to be specific. And for you guys as Pro Manchester members, if you are interested in joining GSquared, we do a 15% discount. I believe Sean has got that information for you. Again, just reach out to us. We'll look after you. Mention Pro Manchester and we're all good. Right, let me go to these questions. We have lots of questions. I hope they're all nice. Are you health at every size? Are you health at every size aligned? For example, promoting intuitive eating and not reckless diets? Oh, God, absolutely. Absolutely, Katie. So there's a thing called metabolic typing. So Shim didn't cover it today. Metabolic typing is the work done by a chap called Weston Price, who based the macronutrients of protein, carbs, and fats on what your hereditary, genetic, kind of like evolutionary timeline looked like. So for example, Northern Europeans do better on a high fat, higher protein diet, whereas south of the equator, let's say Asia, Africa, do much better on high carb diets and lower fats. It's just how we've been sort of genetically evolved over the time. We do offer resting metabolic rate analysis using gas analysis at GSquared. So it's very prescriptive, it's very accurate. But for me, counting calories, I don't think is long-term or sustainable. I think people need to become intuitive with what they're eating, and also that idea of like the elimination diet, removing certain foods out to try and assess what you are intolerant for. Hope that answers the question. Why does this change when a woman hits menopausal age? That's a really long question. Maybe I can drop that in and I can do a woman's presentation next time I come around to Pro Manchester, perhaps. Do you work with women with polycystic ovary syndrome? Yes, we do. A lot of it's come from younger girls who, again, have had bulimia, and it's actually triggered PCOS, sadly. They've been young enough to repair from it. But there are certain nutritional, naturopathic things you can do to enhance or should we say mitigate PCOS. Is a vegan diet preferable for gut health? Yeah, so guys, you know what? The vegan diet is proven beyond all doubt that you're going to reduce risk of cancer. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. I think it's about 25%. You're also going to have lower levels of inflammation in the body because you're not eating inflammatory foods. So if you are vegan and you want it, or you're thinking of becoming vegan, I would fully endorse it. And yes, it probably is better for gut health because you've got easier digestible foods in your gut, whereas, you know, red meat is a very hard food to digest. And as I said, you need those enzymes present. If you were vegan and then went back to eating meat, if you were vegan for a long time, you might find that your H cells become quite dormant. So you might have a horrendous time of it when you go back to eating meat, which is the case of most foods. So I'm not a vegan, but I endorse it. Okay, what about kids under 10 reference milk? Yeah, when you're younger, you tend to have sufficient what's called lactase enzymes. Lactase enzymes is what breaks lactose down. And for me, I remember it kicking in my late 20s that I was eating yogurt and I was getting these awful kind of upper respiratory symptoms that told me, oh God, I've gone dairy intolerant. Always a sad day. I don't think it's optimal, and don't force your children to eat something or drink something they don't want to. But if you can encourage them to move to plant-based milks, they're the next generation, aren't they? So if they can do it early on, I think all power to them. Thoughts on tablets versus sublingual liquid supplements? I read that liquid lented the body more easily. Gosh, that's a debate all day long. I personally prefer capsules, personally, but I do think that transdermal technology has its place. That's basically where you apply zinc or magnesium to the skin, either through a cream or through the magnesium flakes that we spoke about, and that can have a very powerful impact. I can only really tell you what I do and what I've given my clients over the years, and I do prefer capsules. I am taking I'm trialing a reputed anti-aging supplement, which is actually sublingual. It's actually a liquid form, and it's called mononucleotide, MLM, mononucleotide, and it's supposed to give more energy to the mitochondria. So I'm testing that to see if that's got any merit at the moment. But the research is suggesting that it is. I'm always trying something. Guys, do we have any more questions for me? It's been lovely to talk to you. I do look forward to the day that we can do this in person.
Everyone, if there are no further questions, or now's your chance, last couple of minutes to add any questions, or if
membership start at £95 a month. It's a high-end gym. We're limiting the membership numbers. It's a 12,000 square foot space. We could put 3,000 members in there. We're putting 800 members in there. It's a very, very personalized membership. It's a commercial gym. So, but it started at £95 a month, less your 15% discount, of course. Sorry, Sean, I cut across you there.
No, I was glad you jumped in. So I think if there's nothing else, it's just to say thank you to all of you for attending, and a huge thank you to Andy and to GSquared. I'll include the details you can see on your screen at the minute. I'll include those on the post-event email as well. And I'll be putting something up on the website in regards to the 50% discount and in the newsletter as well this week. So a huge thank you to everyone.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for inviting me. All the best, guys. Stay healthy.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care.